Hello everyone, and welcome to another episode of LostinTranslationmon. This time we're covering Digimon Ghost Game episode 32, Who Are You? This time I'm joined by just the monster in my closet because I'm by my lonesome, as Quinn and Chloe were unable to record, but they did record their thoughts together, which I'll edit in like I usually do when I'm doing it solo with the monster in my closet. So just some quick housekeeping. So in relation to the Quinn and Chloe quick comments, they'd like to apologise for the fact that they called Betsumon Bellusmon by mistake in their recording multiple times. I don't think they actually didn't say Betsumon at all. So if you hear Bellusmon, that's who they're referring to. So, just a quick synopsis before we get into it. So, Gammamon is meeting with a friend, but gets replaced by Betsumon. Not only does everyone think that Betsumon is Gammamon, nobody can actually recognise Gammamon. Betsumon plans to replace the whole dorm with the Betsumon, and Hiro invites the real Gammamon to a picnic along with the Betsumon Gammamon, and Gammamon then eats a lot of chocolate and Betsumon is unable to keep up with him. This makes Hiro realise that Gammamon is Gammamon, and then Gammamon evolves to Canon Weissmon, defeats the Betsumon, and then Clockmon appears just to reveal that he knew it was Betsumon the entire time, because apparently there's been a bunch of Digimon being replaced by Betsumon. So that was not helpful at all, because Clockmon was approached by Gammamon earlier, and he did not recognise him, so it was not helpful there at all. So with all that out of the way, let's go over to Quinn Chloe's quick comments.
Happy July 2nd, everybody.
Yeah, apologies for audio. There's probably going to be pops in the background because it's American Imperialism weekend.
Yep. So since it's Happy July 2nd, there might be some fireworks that make their way into the recording. Hopefully not, but if you hear some pops, don't be too surprised.
So, highlights. I was really into the visual style of this episode.
Yes. Yes, so
Very
much.
good. Bellusmon is awful looking, and I love it. It was so well done.
Which one?
The villain? Bellusmon, I think?
Oh, Bellusmon, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just looks awful, and I hate them, and it's perfect for what the episode is.
You think so? I kind of disagree. But I'll save that for the lowlights.
Sure, fair enough.
Yeah. I really liked a lot of the kind of small things that they did this episode. So I liked that they actually did a full-on splash screen for this episode title instead of just having it be a little banner over the animation.
Mm-hmm.
I like how they cut to that. I liked how they didn't do the usual eye catch sound bite when we came back. There was one other thing that they did that I really liked, but I forgot to write it down, dang it. Just like, yeah, the especially in the rain, some of the rain animations were top notch.
Yeah, they really were. Yeah, just the dark, the spooky, the Dutch angles. A lot of this episode has just a lot of highlights to it. Visually.
Yeah. For me, I really liked what this episode could have been, and I quite liked what it was, but I still have my misgivings.
I definitely have some downsides. That said, the story itself, body snatching is an oldie but a goodie, and they did it fairly well, I thought.
I guess, yeah. Are we ready to move into lowlights so I can express my thoughts on that?
Sure.
Okay, you don't have any more highlights? I have one more highlight, which you might have already said, I can't remember now, but the new outro is incredible. I love it so much.
It's quite a banger. Also, just the scene with Mekumon is great. It's affecting. I love that Mekumon is done with a more masculine-coded voice this time. And I'm really into I'm probably gonna disappear because no one believes me about who I am. Yeah. Even me at this point.
Mm-hmm.
So
it was good. It was very evocative of another show that I'm known to quite like.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I didn't say it, so it doesn't count.
Saki is the anime we're talking about.
Yes. The one about magical girl Mahjong.
Mm-hmm. It's the thing you're known for.
Yeah. Okay, so ready for lowlights?
Yeah.
Okay, so I really liked the tone of this episode, except for the parts that actually dealt with Bellismon.
Yeah.
I really wish. I feel like this episode could have been so good if the villain was more like visibly sinister rather than just feeling like slapstick all the time.
I can see where you're coming from. I definitely liked the appearance of Bellismon, especially in the costumes, way better than the actual fight in particular.
Yeah,
and yeah, I definitely get where you're coming from on that.
yeah. I just I also didn't really like. It's weird. I almost would have rather that they didn't give them a motivation and just have them be like agents of chaos. Mm-hmm. Although I know, among the astute listeners out there, there are probably those of you who think, but Chloe, if they didn't give it a motivation, then you'd be complaining about how they don't have a motivation.
Yes, you would.
And I acknowledge that. But in this case, I stand by it anyway.
That's fine.
Because, they gave them motivation, but it's still kind of nebulous as to what it was. They were just, this is like a stepping stone to bigger and better things for them. But what bigger and better things? I don't know.
From there we conquer the world, I guess, is what we're supposed to infer. But I guess, it's definitely a lot. And I feel like they didn't need to start by going after the 3 people most likely to put an end to this.
Yeah. And on that note, there was no reason for them to just stand there and get attacked, but they sure just did.
Yep. Hero was just kind of unforgivably stupid this episode.
Yeah. But yeah, so I feel like if the villain had been more... Yeah. If the villain had been more sinister and was more motivated, like, I'm just doing this because I think it's fun and I'm here to ruin your life and what are you going to do to stop me? That would have been a lot better than, this is just a step in our plans for world domination because it's very important that we start with this particular dorm because reasons.
I think if I were writing it, there would have been one Bellismon just trying to take Gamamon's place in particular, and...
Yeah, I was actually kind of surprised to learn that there was more than one.
Yeah, or, I even would have, I would have definitely been okay with still including the Mekumon scene, and you just have, there's this one, and he's the worst person, and he just goes around serially ruining lives, and that would have been cool.
Yeah. Yeah. I think it could have been a lot better if it was a bit more nefarious rather than, like I said before, just feeling kind of slapstick throughout. As always, the resolution felt really easy to me, like overly easy. It's just, Gamamon loves chocolate so much that saves the day.
Yeah, I get it, because so that's was going to be in my miscellaneous thoughts, but I'll go ahead and say it here. So, I definitely wish that we didn't do the chocolate thing as much as we do. On the other hand, they picked a thing and they've stuck with it, so I guess I won't hate on it too much, It wasn't chocolate saves the day, it was, there was one very clearly identifiably different thing about the real Gamamon, so that's cool, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
The added scene where he doesn't like sweets, the Bellismon, was a little much, though.
Yeah. I was also a little disappointed that we didn't get Gulus Gamamon this episode, because I think they could have done a lot of interesting things with that. Had Gamamon connect with his inner Gulus a bit more by, when feeling all neglected and forgotten or whatever. Mm-hmm. It would have been interesting to, see a little bit more Gamamon in Gulus Gamamon, or a little bit more Gulus in Gulus Gamamon and regular Gamamon, or,
figure
anything,
out what's happening,
really.
And then just go ape shit on the person who wronged you, because Hero won't talk to you.
Yeah, exactly. So I was a little bummed that we didn't get that. Not not something that really dragged down my rating of it, but it was something that I was a little disappointed by. And another thing that I kind of mentioned earlier, but I also wrote down here and wanted to stress again, is that it seemed like the Bellismon were not visibly significantly more impacted by Canon Weissman's attack compared to Wezen Gamamon's attack. But the second time, it just kind of worked because
it won the fight. Because
the writers didn't have time to squeeze in a better resolution.
Yep.
And both times they just kind of stood there and got attacked because...
Yep. Yeah. They're not really a fighter type Digimon. So the only thing they had was numbers. but then
Okay, but they don't have,
anything.
like, any survival instinct to get out of the way.
Not. Yeah, like, it was a little lower budget, but, they were making a lot of hay out of what they could earlier in the episode with that constraint, so...
Yeah.
It wasn't great, but it was fine.
It detracted from the experience for me.
That's fair.
But, yeah, I think you have at least one more.
I think I do, but I've forgotten what it was.
Okay, then I will start the sentence, then I'll let you finish it. Clockmon?
Oh, Clockmon was so useless. Oh my god. Thank you.
You're
for
welcome.
the reminder.
Yep.
A Clockmon who in no way at any point did anything helpful and then just showed up to go, aha! It's just as I suspected, apparently.
Mm-hmm. Yep. He was just showing up to save face because he really wants the viewer to forget that he just failed to recognize Gamamon 2 minutes ago.
Yeah, which, it's fine. It's magic that it worked on people who never encountered, or, well, I guess only briefly encountered Bellasmon. It's a lot, but whatever. But then, yeah, I don't feel like he needed to show up at the end. He just could have been one more person who didn't recognize Gamamon that time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so he's just kind of showing up to either just lie to the camera, or he did have suspicions it was going on and did nothing.
Yeah. No, he knew this was happening, he knew it was an ongoing problem for lots of Digimon, and at no point considered that Gamamon might have been affected by this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. But for all of those lowlights, I still walked away with a pretty good impression of this episode.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like, the fairly solid kind of backbone to it carried a lot of weight.
Yeah. And I really do think that a lot of those little things that they did slightly differently compared to a bunch of other episodes, actually, like, really notched up the overall experience for me.
Yeah, they really kind of worked on being a spooky show about ghosts for a minute.
Yeah, like, straight up, when they gave me that splash screen episode title, I was like, oh!
Yeah, no,
that was cool.
That was good stuff. I loved the little, like, kind of black, hazy outline Gamamon we got in the early shots.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and when they were making it so that, the imposter Gamamon's face was always covered, I was like, oh, this is really good.
Yep.
And actually, so I initially wrote this down as a miscellaneous thought, and you know what? It still is, so never mind. We'll get to it later.
Okay, yeah, let's go ahead and officially transition over there, because we kind of got there a minute ago.
To miscellaneous thoughts?
Yeah.
We're going out of order, if so.
Okay.
Let's just go in order.
Okay,
Next up is,
right.
Hey Quinn, who was your favorite character?
I'm gonna actually give it to Gamamon, who, had some pathos this episode.
He really did. It was kind of a tough call for me. I definitely considered Gamamon. Yeah. I think I'm giving it to Mekumon, though, because it was very...
a good performance for a
brief
character.
Yeah, it was really good. I quite liked it, and it was very reminiscent of another show whose name I shall not speak.
I appreciated that we implied a backstory without needing to show me the entire backstory.
Yes, that was also nice. Just leave it up to the viewer's imagination. I appreciate that.
Bad things happened.
Yep. Okay, so how would you rate this episode?
I'm gonna give it a 5, but like a soft 5. It's on the low end.
Okay. I think I've been kind of flip-flopping between a 4 and a 4.5, but I think I am going to stick with a 4.5 in the end, because that's what I wrote down in my notes, and I already figured out where I was going to place it if I gave it a 4.5.
Yep, big mood.
Yeah, but I really liked, I love what this episode could have been, but if it was just a little less slapstick, I think it could have been that.
That's fair.
But it wasn't, and
they didn't want to scare the 7-year-olds too much, and
exactly, I get that, but sometimes you just gotta encourage the cowardly dog, traumatize some kids, okay?
Mm-hmm. And it's not like Digimon has historically shied away from traumatizing children.
Oh, really? Okay, well, fair enough. So yeah, all the more reason to just say, come on, you cowards, scare the children to give me a good episode. So on that note, Quinn, how would you, where's this episode fitting into your rankings?
I am putting it in, I believe, 7th place between episodes 20 and 2.
Okay. Well, if I assume that's at the bottom of your 5s?
Thereabouts, yeah.
Okay. Well, as it is, it's towards the top of my 4.5s, despite me just saying about how I was flip-flopping between a 4 and a 4.5. It's actually going to be at the top of my 4.5s because I just really love what this episode could have been and was for the first, 2/3 or so.
Yeah,
But
the
anyway,
first 2/3 were, pretty great.
So yeah, I'm putting mine in 8th place between episode 24, Twisted Love, and episode 2, The Mystery of the Museum. Below 24, above 2. Miscellaneous thoughts time?
Sounds good.
Okay. So my miscellaneous thought was that, and it's much less valid after we got partway through the episode, but at least for the first third of the episode, I was like, even though it does detract from the mystery a bit, I do kind of appreciate that, they're giving the imposter a noticeably different voice just so that the viewer can be, certain which one's which. But, then later they just showed the stupid face, so it became much less noteworthy.
Yeah.
But that's another thing that I kind of wish would have been a little better about it. Leave the viewer confused too. I think it would have been really nice if they'd done
preview. And yeah, I agree. I would have had the same actor do it and maybe just give a little bit different inflection on it.
Yeah. You can still kind of act kind of, brusque and just slightly off like they kind of did, but, have it be the same voice and just make it be from the mannerisms that you can tell, oh, this isn't the same. This isn't the same old Gamamon we know. Is it?
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that would have been a lot better. But again, can't scare the 7-year-olds too much.
My miscellaneous thought is that the shot of Jellymon sitting on top of a tied up Kiyoshiro is just trying to influence children. They know what they're doing here.
I was gonna say let's hope, but I don't know if I should now.
I don't know if it's better if it's intentional or not, but...
Mm-hmm.
Anyway.
Yeah. I didn't have any other miscellaneous thoughts, did you?
Nothing that I don't think got sort of included in the lowlights.
Okay. How about our thoughts about the series thus far?
I won't go too much into my usual, there could be a little more plot. I didn't hate what we were doing this week, even though it didn't, advance anything, and that was fine. Not every week needs to. In general, though, God, I am dying to know anything about Hiro's dad and whether or not he's even alive.
Oh, come on, you got a leaf scribbling last episode. Is that not good enough for you, Quinn?
I have to say, the federal government is accepting leaf scribbles as a form of identity now, so...
Yeah. Apparently they're very trustworthy and difficult to forge.
Mm-hmm.
My thoughts about the series thus far is that I really hope that we do more episodes in the style of this one, because I feel like this one combined a lot of the better parts of some of the best episodes, like just kind of the atmosphere and stuff that they've had. Along with some of the... I really liked the animation in this episode.
A lot of it was very good.
Yeah, and just the way that they kind of slightly changed things up. I really liked that, and I get that if you do it every episode, it certainly lessens the impact, so I don't hope that they do it every time, but I hope that they do it again.
Mm-hmm. And the outro was just a bop.
Yeah, keep this outro for the rest of the series, please. I'm sure they won't, but I hope they do.
Yeah, we're almost certainly going to get... one more, maybe 2, but...
Yeah, depends on how many more episodes there are.
I think that brings us to next time on?
Yeah.
Kind of digging the just random whispers you can't identify thing. Looks like it'll be a spooky one. I appreciate that we're getting some Kiyoshiro. I'm trying to remember because it's been a very long day. Has Jellymon? Yeah, Jellymon has gotten to the perfect form by now.
Yep.
So yeah, hopefully we'll just get some good personality out of Jellymon, because that's been a hot minute.
Yeah, I'm hoping so. I'm interested to see how next episode will go, especially given how, like, the show has kind of in the past, like, flirted with the idea of Kiyoshiro having dissociative identity disorder.
Yeah.
So
Well,
I'll be interested to see how next episode goes.
yeah, definitely. I'll be curious to see what our listeners who've given us some insights on that think about it.
Yeah. But yeah, that's basically what I had. Oh, and it did remind me of one other minor lowlight for this one, which is that it sure kind of sucks that when we have a Ruli week, Kiyoshiro, or Hiro still kind of comes in to save the day. But when we have a Hero week, Ruli can literally just only show up on a video window.
Yeah, and just be kind of useless. Even
Yeah.
Angoromon's like little poem at the end was just open your heart, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Please
So-
let Rui do things.
Yeah, so next week, well, and see, that's the thing. I bet next week we're gonna let Kiyoshiro do things, but we don't really let Ruli do things, which is a shame.
Yeah. Yeah.
But anyway, yeah, those are our predictions, I guess. Let's see. There's no other segments or anything, right? No. Okay.
No.
Well, cool.
We kind of rushed through tonight because we helped our friends move all day and we're very, very tired.
Yeah, I also forgot that we had to record and took some sleeping
So
pills about an
did
hour and a
I.
half ago now, so I'm very
Yeah.
tired.
Anyway,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's it for us. Night, everybody.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
And now back to me on my lonesome with the monster in my closet. So, time for discussions. So, my highlights. So, I also really loved the new outro. It was a pretty catchy song. I liked the animations and the graphics that went along with it. I like how we included the other Digimon that are appearing in this show, such as Blacktailmon. That was kind of cool to see. I do like that. It felt kind of funky, but also kind of creepy, which is a good vibe to get from Ghost Game. I feel like it's doing that quite well. In terms of the episode itself, this episode made me feel like kind of emotional and kind of creeped out, as it reminded me of a reoccurring dream that I had as a kid where there were copies of me and nobody recognized me. And then later on in the dream, there'd be like copies of other people and I could see the other people and I'd be like, hey, how come there's two of my aunt or what have you? And nobody would believe me. They said, no, there's only one of your aunt. And it was really, really weird. It was really scary. And this episode reminded me a lot of that. So that added to like the creepy, ominous atmosphere that this episode had. And also the episode was paced fairly well. The chocolate bit was also plot important, like it was in the same way in the Face Taker episode where we have Hiro being unable to say no. We're using something that has been introduced as a character trait very early on in the show and it's actually coming into play for a fairly quick resolution of the episode, but a reasonable one, something that you've already implemented as something from the character, so that's fine. And I thought that it was paced fairly well. It didn't have any moments that felt like it went on too long. It didn't feel like it was rushed at all because the easy solve of the end of the episode was something that we already knew about the character. So that's fine. It was also nice to see Meicoomon. I am really feeling bad for Meicoomon, however, because showed up in Digimon Adventure Tri, had a fairly bad time showing up in Ghost Game, albeit with a masculine voice instead of a feminine one, and basically just stopped existing and just disappeared. And that was really, really sad to see. So Meicoomon just can't catch a break. Like, the cat returned only to die, and it was kind of actually sad. Like, I kind of do want to know more about this Meicoomon. Like, there was, if this was a longer show, I'm sure we would have like some flashbacks of Meikoomon's life and having a happy life and then being just disowned. Or maybe this is just Meicoomon talking about how it feels like it's been treated by Toei. It just kind of stopped existing once Digimon Adventure Tri stopped. So that was kind of cool. My last highlight is that I like how the characters have seasonal clothing and how their clothes changes show up in the evolution animation. like in the other episode where we have the Thetismon evolution and we have Kyo being poisoned, like he has poison damage on his arm, and that appeared in the evolution animation. That was cool. I do like that. I do like how that changed. I'm a big fan of the fact that the characters actually wear multiple bits of clothes, that they change their clothing in episode to episode. It makes it feel more realistic. Lots of Digimon seasons don't have the characters ever change clothes. Even when we see them go home at night, they always come back dressed in different clothes. At least with things like Sabers, we had them change clothes into their like uniforms from their casual clothes, and I guess they're in uniform, so of course their clothes don't change. And in 02, we just had them have their home life clothes and their digital world clothes, and that was it. But in Ghost Game, we actually have a wardrobe of more than just 2 items and clothing, so that's pretty cool. Respect to that, especially with this changing of seasons, how the show seems to be progressing in time, like real time is, so they're wearing like like cooler outfits because it's warmer. So I like that. In terms of my lowlights, and this is something that I guess the episode is really good until like I started thinking about all these lowlights, which is I wish they explained why Gammamon was being seen as another Digimon when multiple Digimon are known to exist and are still the same species. The characters didn't refer to Gammamon as still being a Gammamon, just a different Gammamon. There was nothing to sort of show that they were seeing Gammamon as anything other but a Gammamon, but they didn't address it. It felt like it was just... I know it seems like a nitpick and it's a weird hill for me to die on, but I just really... It just was really weird. It was really weird to me that we know that there are multiples. In fact, this episode has multiple Betsumon. We're not saying that, oh, well, there's only one Betsumon and the rest are all imposters. We're just saying that they are a group of Betsumon. So why couldn't this be another Gammamon? Everyone was surprised to see Gammamon existing. They didn't say, oh, it's another Gammamon. Like, I don't know what they saw Gammamon as. I would have liked to know. They just completely forgot that he existed, but also still remembered that Gammamon existed and what Gammamon looks like. I guess you could say the face and the voice were different, but I am fairly certain that the reason the face and the voice were different was just for our benefit as the audience, and not the actual characters in the show. I'm sure that it was actually meant to just look like Gammamon straight up in the actual show, because when Hiro did still recognize Gammamon, he still saw the imposter Gammamon as being Gammamon, so that is kind of weird. So that was something. My other kind of a bit of a nitpick, but something that's really annoying, is the fact that Clockmon had no reason to show up at the end. It was nice seeing Clockmon. It's nice when we see characters come back. That is cool. We kind of know the characters exist. But he was completely unhelpful when Gammamon found him. And when Gammamon was like, hey, I've been replaced, Clockmon was like, you're not Gammamon, and then just left. But then later on, when we have Clockmon show up at the end of the episode, he just says, I knew all along that it was Betsumon. It was just not helpful at all. He even said, oh yes, I've heard about Digimon being replaced by Betsumon. I'm not sure why his flags weren't like, set to caution when he saw Gammamon saying that, the Digimon that he didn't recognize and looked like Gammamon, or looked whatever he looked like. He didn't think about that at all then. It just feels like a weird thing. Like, nobody was helping Gammamon, and I feel kind of bad for it. Like, why have Clockmon show up at the end if we're also going to introduce him as a character who doesn't even think about anything when Gammamon is clearly alarmed by what's happening? And the last, very minor nitpick, this one's tiny compared to the other two, but the animation it was just okay this episode. It wasn't bad by any means, and it was still, I'd say the same quality as a lot of Adventure Colon was, and a lot of Digimon in general. However, compared to previous episodes of Ghost Game, the animation just seemed not as good. And that's something to say about how good Ghost Game's animation is, that this episode was just okay in terms of animation, and it really, it was more clear as not being so good as animation. It was still good, but it wasn't as good as previous episodes. And I guess that's a testament to how good Ghost Game is in terms of animation. So I guess it's a very, very small low light, because I don't often mention about animation. It's just something that I noticed. In terms of favorite character, I'm going to choose Gammamon, because we actually use the fact that he loves chocolate and that's his champion as a way to solve the episode. Though it was almost Meikumon, but I guess I wasn't too excited to see Mekumon. It was just kind of like oh, it's Mekumon. It wasn't like when Harrismon showed up. I wasn't like, oh, that's Harrismon. Like, it wasn't like that. It was just like, oh, okay, it's Mekumon. That's another Digimon that exists. And I'm not going to always pick the Digimon that shows up because it's not always a really, like, surprising Digimon to show up. Harrismon was surprising, especially because it just got kind of cut out of, because it was just in Rare Eyes, and Rare Eyes got, like, canned a few months ago, so it was kind of just nice to see Harrismon existing in something. Mekumon is just like, at least we've had Mekumon, like, Mekumon felt like a bigger character in terms of the franchise. Harrismon was just in the gacha mobile game. You can't enjoy Rare Eyes anymore like you could back then. You can still enjoy Digimon Adventure Tri by watching it, so I'm gonna pick Gamamon. In terms of my rating, I'm going to put this as a 1.5 out of 5. I just did not like this episode. As much as I liked the creepy feeling that I got and being reminded about my reoccurring nightmares as a kid, which is always good. I do like when Ghost Game actually succeeds to make me slightly creeped out. The episode in general, I just wasn't a big fan of. Again, I know it's a kid show, so I shouldn't expect anything like huge out of it, but I just wish they explained why Gamamon wasn't recognized at all. Like, was he just like a shadow? Did he have nothing going on there? I don't know. And the fact that Clockmon just shouldn't have been at the end of the episode. Like, it should just... I mean, I guess I understand why they put Clockmon at the end. It was like, so we don't just leave a pile of criminals just hanging out. Like, Clockmon's going to deal with them. But I kind of wish that... I honestly prefer if Blacktailmon showed up to shush them back to the digital world, like we've seen happen with the baddie Digimon before. I don't know. There could have been something done there. Or just kill. Just kill some Digimon. That would have been fine. Like, if we had Gulas Gamamon show up and have, like, a bad time because he wasn't recognized, and then just destroy them. I don't know. It just felt kind of weird there. So adding together the three of our ratings puts this episode in 18th place. In terms of my own ranking, I'm putting it in last place because I guess me saying that last week's episode could be possibly as bad as it gets, and that cursed me. So it's in last place. I'm sorry. Over to Postmon Pat. First of all, we have Narumi, who says their main lowlight of the episode was the response from Hiro's father. It was just, I don't know, figure it out by yourself, bye. And yeah, absolutely, that was annoying. They then continue to say that they thought Hiro would ask anything about Gamamon, but he asked about how to handle with the troublesome Digimon. I would rather not having this part to have more time for the main problem of the episode, but the ending of episode 31 would be rushed either way, unfortunately. Next, we have Lazy Croconaw, who says that this episode was okay. For them, they have not much to say about Zubamon, didn't really give them a reaction like Harrismon did, because they didn't know them, but also due to that, they weren't bothered for how it looked, at least Angoramon being a nerd was cute. Yeah, that was really great. They then say next episode, as in this week's episode, is weird that it has its own special poster. And yeah, it did. That was really cool to see on Twitter, where it had, like, Betsumon, like, being a shadow next to Gamamon. That was really cool. I don't know why we got one for episode 32, but not for any of the other episodes. Feels kind of weird. Anyway, they then say that, weird that it has no poster, but they would absolutely love seeing Gulas or a reference to him, but won't hold their breath. Good, because there was no reference to Gulas Gamamon for it, but they really hope that the fake Gamamon actually has the Gamamon face due to the poster saying the Mod of the Week. But yeah, looking forward to that. And they say, nice podcast. It's weird that they found the channel due to their excitement for episode 13 of Ghost Game. It's really great that new people are finding out about the podcast. That means a lot. Like, it's also, like, extremely important that people have been listening to this podcast from episode 1 all those years ago in 2015, I think it was. And it's really great that we still have those listeners there, but it is also great that new people are discovering about the podcast, and I hope more people do. Like, I would love for more people to be able to join in on this conversation that I have every week about Digimon, because it's fun and exciting, and it's nice to see this thing that I started, 7 years ago now, is still getting new people finding it, which it's really important. And I kind of hope that people are still listening to the old episodes as well, even though they're not as, I guess, good in terms of quality. Like, I was still learning how to podcast, like how to edit and how to record and everything. So I hope that the old episodes are still getting as much love as the new episodes. They're all available on podcast catchers and on YouTube, so they are there to be listened to at least. But yeah, so thanks for finding us. And lastly, we have Danny, who says a Pokemon comeback would be nice because they miss him. And yeah, I miss Pokemon too. I wonder if it'll be a ghost or if we'll get an episode where we learn about reincarnation in Digimon. Because every so often in a season we do get the odd episode about how Digimon are born, and I feel like that's in most seasons of the show. So I guess that would be a place for Pokemon to return in some way, or at least flashbacks, or at least some explanation, maybe some explanation to Gamamon about what happened, because Gamamon kind of just didn't, like, oh, he went on a trip, he'll come back soon, right? Yeah. And then we kind of left it at that. So I hope he comes back, but I think it's going to be an emotional episode, which is always good. So that was it for Postmon Pat. In terms of my thoughts about the series so far, I'm not going to curse it like I did last week. I'm still enjoying the creepy aspect, but I like how this episode did pace it rather well. It did solve it with something that they kind of already introduced as a character aspect. I do like that. Recently, well, I guess I've just finished it. I've been watching Dead End on Netflix, and it's another sort of show that is horror, but horror for the kids. Like, Dead End is aimed at young adults and teenagers, so not too much older than the demographic for Ghost Game, and it has a very similar feel to it. It is horror, but it is it's horror that you can let kids watch. It is acceptable horror for all ages. It's family horror, and it has a nice feel to it. And comparing the way that Dead End is going, I just finished season 1, there's, I guess, a season 2 coming. But yeah, so in terms of each episode being rather episodic, but there's like an overall overarching plot, like there is in Ghost Game. Ghost Game's overarching plot is there's something going on with Gamamon, there's something going on with Hero's dad, and there's like a mystery behind that. There's also the, Black Tailmon, Black Agumon, Black Gargomon hanging out, being vaguely sinister. And then in Dead End we have, I guess I don't want to spoil it too much because you might not have seen any of it, but there is some sort of overarching plot there, but it is largely episodic, even though it's only 10 episodes long in terms of, length. It's only one season, 10 episodes long so far. And Ghost Game is 31 or 32 episodes out of an unknown amount, probably ending in the next 20 or so episodes, I guess. So that is different, but in terms of the length of individual episodes, they're more or less the same. And I feel like Dead End handles the length of their episode better. It never feels like they are rushed for time. They tell the story fairly well, and they might give a little bit of a crumb of the plot in each episode, each of those 10 episodes. They kind of like, and then obviously the last few episodes are more focused around that plot, but the episodes in the middle and at the start are kind of like, you get your mon of the week or your story of the week with like a crumb of plot. And I feel like that's a better way to handle it, but also each episode feels like it's better contained than each episode of Ghost Game. Like, I never feel like the pacing in Dead End was rushed at all. But in Ghost Game, there's quite often that I'll say that, oh, this is the Ghost Game problem, it feels rushed. However, this episode was paced well, but in terms of the whole series, I feel like it could be done better, and it could be more like Dead End. But I guess if you're enjoying Ghost Game and you enjoy this podcast, definitely watch Dead End. It's on Netflix, and it is probably one of the best shows that I've seen for a long time. So I guess that's my recommendation. I guess I'm bringing back Weekly Wonder, which was an old segment that we had back on the podcast many years ago. So go watch Dead End. It is 10 episodes long. It's on Netflix, so it's very, very easy to consume. You can bash it out in like a week, and that's what I did. So in any case, those are my thoughts so far. Kind of mismatched of like, it's like Dead End, but Dead End does it better, and I wish this show was a little bit better at pacing, even though this episode was good in terms of pacing. But those are my thoughts for the whole show. Next week, we have a really scary looking one. Episode 33 is called Whispers of the Dead, and it looks to be a Kiyoshiro episode, but I really would like a Ruri episode soon, because I love Kiyoshiro. He's probably my favourite of the three, but I want to know more about Ruri. But I guess it's fine having a Kiyoshiro episode, because it's nice to see another character, and I love Kiyoshiro, I love Jellymon, but the next episode seems genuinely terrifying. It's got some really scary things, so I'm very much looking forward to that, and I'm hoping that that I enjoy more episodes again. That'd be fun. So thanks for listening to this week's episode. You can join us next time for episode 33, Whispers of the Dead. But for now, you can find the link dump for this episode in the description, as is our Redbubble, and a bunch of ways for you to contact us and stay updated, such as emailing us at LostinTranslationmon@gmail.com, or of course commenting on this episode on our website LostinTranslationmon.com, or on this episode on YouTube. You can follow us at Translationmon on Twitter, and you can find us on LostinTranslationmon on Tumblr, Facebook, Instagram, and of course YouTube. I'm at Digimon_hero on TikTok, and I stream on Twitch at twitch.tv/translationmon, and Digimon Survive's coming out soon, so I intend to do lots of streams and lots of videos for YouTube and lots of general content about the game, so I recommend, if you want to get in on that, to follow me on as many things as you possibly can, and I'd appreciate it anyway. And you can also chat with us about Digimon games, Digimon anime, Digimon anything on the Lost in Translation on Discord server. But if you enjoyed this podcast, please consider leaving us a quick 5-star review on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or any other podcast catcher that you use. To help out, you can also donate to our Patreon, which links in the description, from as little as $1 a month, and that gets you access to the Patreon-only areas of our Discord server, but there are higher levels, more rewards, such as unedited and early episodes, and more, so check that out. And of course, thank you to our current supporters on Patreon, Stephen Reeves, who is Wild164 on Archive Our Own, Katawashi, Chisai, who can follow on Twitter at Chisai236, Neobu, who says you should follow Chisai on Twitter at Chisai236, Lismet, who's Lekman on Tumblr, Nicholas, Sam, Emery from Gone While Hunting, a Hunter x Hunter Rewatch podcast, Magnus, Lucas, Jason105, Patrick, Jason, Grey Tanuki, Shelby, Digital Hazard, who's on Twitch at The Digital Hazard, Dedicated Gazi, Alemist, Michael, and Tropiamon. You can also make a one-off donation on PayPal, which can be found linked in the description. It's paypal.me/Edgemon. You can also donate to me on my Ko-fi account, ko-fi.com/Edra. And that is it for this week's episode. So have yourself a wonderful, fantastic week, and I will see you on the next one. Bye!